All right, folks, first big Oscar predictions video post Golden Globes and Critics' Choice nominations. This is a big deal. Today we're talking the Best Picture lineup. I'm going over my honorable mentions and then why my top 10 is the way it is. And we'll probably do this one more time before nominations come out, just an overall, see if we change our minds based off of PGA, SAG, whatever it may be. But things will change, right? We're waiting on a couple of films to see how they hit over the next couple of weeks. But right now, I'm feeling decent about my top 10, at least the top half. As always, if you want to support these Oscar videos, if you like them, let me know by sharing this video and dropping a thumbs up. That is the best way to support it. If we get enough, we'll try to do as many of these for as many categories as we can before nominations day. But before I get into the honorable mentions, I need your thoughts down below. You can do that while we're recapping here, but I want to know your 10, how it differs from my 10. But I kind of want to go through the last few months, what my list has looked like. And thanks to awards expert from Brother Bro, and I love those guys, Oscar expert Brother Bro, I've been able to keep track of this. I'm going to give you the dates and how it has shifted over the last little bit. And I want to start on August 30th. We could go back further, but I want to start fairly recently and what my list looked like at that point. 5 movies that I've carried over until now. You have Sinners, Rental Family, which has completely fallen off. One Battle After Another, Sentimental Value, Marty Supreme. Thought Jeremy Allen White would do some heavy lifting with Springsteen, the untitled Jafar Panahi film at that point, which has carried over. Wicked for Good, Avatar, and then House of Dynamite. Now, obviously, that's before I saw House of Dynamite, okay? I mentioned in my review there was Oscar chatter. There was, and it died. We fast forward 2 months, October 21st. The list looks very different. We've added Jay Kelly. We have moved up House of Dynamite. Austin, what's wrong with you? Hamnet, October 25th, just 4 days later. I add in The Secret Agent. I add in Frankenstein. And I believe that was right after I saw House of Dynamite. And so I took it very far down my list. November 19th, I've seen Frankenstein by this point, feeling good about it. That first wave of Wicked for Good reviews came out, and they were fairly positive, and so I'm like, oh, okay. Normally that is the case with critics, right? And so I moved that a little bit up my list, but we're kind of we're rounding out what my list is ultimately going to look like in today's video. You know, it was just an accident. There's a title now on awards experts, so a lot of things taking shape. But now we're starting to see the movies that are going to make a dent. If we look at my honorable mentions, I had F1 pretty high. And I was thinking at that point, like, hey, what's the 10th spot going to be? Is it going to be Secret Agent? Fast forward 10 days, now a lot has changed. I've moved Jay Kelly up. I think that was when I added in Song Sung Blue onto my list. And here's the point where I recorded a video. And so I actually recorded this very video in November, but the day after I recorded, I saw a bunch of this. The screeners started coming in for Critics' Choice. So I got to watch some of these films that are on this list, such as It Was Just an Accident and The Secret Agent and Sentimental Value and some of the ones that didn't quite work as well. Train Dreams was one that I watched, and that's when I started to kind of like, okay, I filmed a 45-minute video. Should I release it? And ultimately, I just didn't do it. And so the very day I saw Train Dreams, I put it on my list, a little ahead of the curve on that one. That was before everybody else started talking about it. And thus, we have made it to this point in time where my list looks even different now. So we're going to start with the honorable mentions. Here are the movies that range from little chance to maybe a 50-50 shot. As you can see, I have removed Rental Family, Weapons, and unfortunately, F1. That breaks my heart, but those films, they've not really gotten any nods anywhere to claim that they even have a chance, and so that's unfortunate. I could say something similar about The Testament of Ann Lee. That is hanging on by a thread. It's dangling. It is pretty much dead. If something crazy happens, BAFTAs, SAG, whatever it may be, then I'll feel better about it. But ultimately, I think it's going to be gone by the time we do this video again. Blue Moon is a little more, the Golden Globe. Look, Golden Globe alone doesn't determine really anything. If it's just that. Right, Nouvelle Vague got in there, and I'm like, I'm not going to put Nouvelle Vague on my list. Let's go with the other linked later movie, a movie that has a chance with Ethan Hawke. And Ethan Hawke is what's kind of keeping this thing on there for me. Blue Moon is one of those movies that, and we'll discuss at some point in a short on this channel, if you watch it, you're impressed with two things. It's the writing, and it's the performance. It doesn't have a ton other to hang its hat on. Not to say it's a bad movie by any means, but you are so enamored by that performance, and some people are starting to treat Ethan Hawke like maybe an underdog here, which spells trouble for Joel Edgerton with Train Dreams, and that hurts Train Dreams in general, but it only helps Blue Moon. Now, I'm not giving Blue Moon a real shot here. I'm giving it a 5% chance to get a Best Picture nomination, but that's still a chance. It's better than the 0.5% that Testament of Ann Lee has, and it's got enough to justify being on my list. It could be a wild card down the road. Let's get into the one that actually starts to, you could make this a discussion, even though it has kind of died off a bit, and that's Avatar Fire and Ash. Now, again, we could chalk a lot of this up to the screening itself very late in the game. So Critics' Choice, I don't know if Avatar would have made it on there or not. I would presume if it had a timely screening, at least for me, it was the night before voting, and I think that's the case with most people, unless you lived in, like, maybe LA, right? It's the night before voting. A lot of members saw it at the last possible second. Some members had already voted. Other members were maybe considering submitting and missed that screening, like myself. There was a big snowstorm. Didn't get to see it. It's unfortunate. But Avatar was a write-in. So you had to physically write it in for a lot of those, under-the-line noms, and it didn't get written in a lot of places. Now, visual effects, it got in there. Most people were just going to put that on there regardless because you know how good the visual effects are in the movie. I didn't do that. I personally can't. If I've not seen a movie, I can't vote for it, even if I know what's coming. But you've got the same case with cinematic box office achievement for the Golden Globes. It's like, what? But you didn't see it. And so how'd you vote for it? I can't write Avatar off yet. And I know the reviews haven't been, or the reactions haven't been as glowing as the last two, and that kind of spells a little bit of trouble. But it's James Cameron. These movies have made all the money. We don't know how the audience is going to feel yet. Fans are probably going to enjoy the movie. And with the Golden Globes and the Critics' Choice, it's a big deal that it didn't get into either of those places. But you have to think how the screenings itself were so wonky. And I really think the studios kind of screwed this up. They've botched it a little bit. Should have made the screenings earlier. Should have timed it better if you really wanted this to be an awards contender. Maybe they knew it wasn't going to be an awards contender, but I think they shot themselves in the foot. And because of that, I don't even really want to get into the semantics of it all because I don't think it's in that discussion just yet. We've got to see how it performs, if it can overcome lackluster response from CCA, Golden Globes. Again, a lot of people didn't even see the movie. Next up, Wicked for Good. Now, here's the one where we can actually start to have a conversation because Wicked for Good, as much as some people want to snub it a little bit here and there, it's gotten in certain places that it needed to get in. Now, it had a terrible showing at the Golden Globes, and by terrible, I mean it didn't get in over Nouvelle Vague and Blue Moon. It's a musical and couldn't even get into comedy musical. Also, I look at that category and I'm like, are any of these comedies or musical? I guess some of them are comedies, but it's just a strange thing to think about, right? I am not writing Wicked for Good off. Now, I didn't do percentages with Avatar. I guess I would say Avatar, a 15% chance, maybe closer to 10 now that I think about it. Wicked for Good, I'd say still has like a 20, don't do the math on this, by the way, it's not going to add up. I'd say still has like a 20 to 25% chance of getting a Best Picture nomination. It's not too shabby, especially when you consider mediocre critic reviews. Now, I liked the film. I didn't love it. I wouldn't nominate it for Best Picture. I liked it, though. I think it's a good sequel. But again, I've never watched anything that it's based off of. So you're probably not the best guy to ask here. But it just based off of the initial response and how Rotten Tomatoes score has gone down and how, audiences have claimed to love it, but everybody I've talked to, they're like, oh, it's good. It's just not as good as the first. And that's never a good sign. It's very similar to Wakanda Forever a couple of years ago. Oh, it's good. It's just not as good as the first. And these types of things can really hurt these types of movies. But if you look at a lot of the precursors, and now these aren't the biggest influences here, PGA, SAG, BAFTA, none of this has happened yet. And so those are going to be the biggest influences. But what we have so far on paper, you have all of the minor critics groups, and we're not going to dive into all of those, but let's talk about some of the big ones here. You've got your CCA, HCA, your AFI, American Film Institute, National Board of Review. Those four have all given Wicked a Best Picture nomination for whatever that may be. Their top 10 of the year. We're talking AFI, National Board of Review gives their big 10 and then their winner. And then, you've got Critics' Choice. The only real big one that snubbed it so far is the Golden Globes. Now, to me, that felt like the most obvious, like, oh, we're going to get Wicked for Good in there because it's a musical and there aren't that many comedy musicals vying for positions. But then Nouvelle Vague and then Blue Moon came in. It's like, oh, if those two films can get in over Wicked for Good, it's in trouble. But you've got these other big names here that gave it a mention, which should outweigh Golden Globes, but at the same time, you factor in the critic scores and the review. And movies overcome this all the time. Look at Bohemian Rhapsody. That overcame a very mediocre critic score, average reviews, Metacritic, all these things. These can be overcome if they are beloved by audiences, if they do well at the box office, if the industry likes them. We don't know how the industry feels about Wicked for Good yet. From what I've seen, they kind of like the film, but I think the consensus here is, oh, it's just not as good as the first. And normally when you have a big budgeted sequel like that, it struggles to crack the Best Picture 10 because you have all of these underdogs, some of these really well-reviewed movies, some international films this year. I mean, this is a big year for international movies, for great international movies, and we'll talk about one or two here in just a second. But I think all of that is going to get in the way of Wicked for Good getting a nomination. It's going to be huge to see what happens from here on out for Wicked for Good. If it can snag some of those big ones, if it can snag, PGA, SAG, wherever it does well at from here on out, will determine whether it gets in or not. But it needs a little help. It's also going to be huge for a movie like Jay Kelly because that seems to have been the industry darling and is kind of the industry darling. But my thing with Jay Kelly is there is a large group of people online. And again, the online group that I'm paying attention to and the voting body itself, they're very different groups of people. But I am seeing a lot of people falling in the Jay Kelly is overrated camp. Now, I have a short on this channel. That's how I feel about Jay Kelly. I think I liked it more than the consensus. Do I believe it's a Best Picture movie? No, but I believe the industry has been vying for it. And if you get George Clooney in there, Adam Sandler in there, there's a good shot of it getting in there. But you would have thought the same thing about the Golden Globes. Didn't get the nomination. I didn't even notice it at first. My reaction video. And so I'm sitting here thinking, Jay Kelly doesn't get in, Wicked doesn't get in, Golden Globes, which seem to have been the most obvious place for both of those movies to get in. Are they starting to lose momentum? Because award season's interesting. You have films that can have a ton of momentum. Wicked had that. And then it started to get that critical consensus. And then doesn't get the Golden Globes nomination. Could that be the turning point? Could that be the turning point for Jay Kelly? And that's kind of the same case here. Jay Kelly's one of those movies that I have considered for at least the last 2 or 3 weeks, okay, I guess this is getting in. It's a little weird that it's getting in because there's so many other great films, and we've really started to appreciate international movies as of late, and it's going to bump one of those out. It didn't really make a lot of sense in my head, but now I'm looking at it like, okay, until Golden Globes. And then I'm like, well, if it doesn't get in there, and you put, and I know they're different categories, but you put in movies like No Other Choice and Secret Agent and these other categories, I'm just like, you can't break into musical comedy? You can't break into that? And so I'm looking at both Wicked and Jay Kelly, I'm just like, that just seems, I don't know, man. By the way, Jay Kelly's another one of those HCA, AFI, like it's gotten in everywhere but the Golden Globes, and so it is in a very similar boat as Wicked for Good. And both of those films, while different and loved for different reasons, one's a big budget sequel, the other one is like this industry darling, and people love George Clooney, all of these things. It's just where our voters' brains at right now. Is the tide really shifting? Because I'm feeling a little bit of a shift. And I don't want to put that much stock into Golden Globes, but it's not just Golden Globes. I think for both of these films, the reviews from critics, I know that's different from industry, a 58 Metascore for Wicked for Good. That's not great. Only a 7 on IMDb. And, user scores can be easily manipulated, but these are mostly fans giving reviews, so only a 7. The first one was much higher. And then you look at Jay Kelly, an even lower user score. I believe it's went up since it's come out on Netflix, so I think people are liking it a little bit more. But only a 67 on Metacritic. And those just don't seem good enough to justify Best Picture nominations. Now, they can definitely get in. Specifically, again, I'm going to go I'm going to go with SAG. I think SAG is huge for both of these films, and that could definitely turn the tide. That could shift my thoughts. All right, no other choice. So here's what it needed to happen at the Globes. It needed Train Dreams, it needed Wicked, and Jay Kelly to blank in picture, and for it to get that spot. That's exactly what happened. I believe the biggest detriment towards No Other Choice so far has been the National Board of Review list blanking there, which a movie like Secret Agent blanked at as well in the main category, but then you've got the international category. And I feel like that's a pretty big deal. And so I'm thinking, if something's going to get in the international category and miss the main category, then I'll feel okay about it with the National Board of Review. No Other Choice didn't get on that list. Didn't get in the 5. You had Left-Handed Girl, What I'd Love That Remains, Surratt was on that list. And then The Secret Agent, which is a movie that's surging. We'll talk about that here in a bit. No Other Choice missed. That's a big, I mean, you could say it got HCA over The Secret Agent, and I guess that's a good thing for No Other Choice, a bad thing for The Secret Agent. But in terms of recency bias and not getting any mention in NBR, that's a big deal. It's a bigger deal than I think what people are saying, because a lot of people are very confident No Other Choice is getting in. And I absolutely believe Neon, the studio, could get 3 to 4 movies in here. Some people are not feeling confident in that. I'm thinking, I would hold off on that overconfidence at this point and see what happens a little down the line. You look at a movie like Drive My Car, was another movie that missed, NBR and blanked there and then had that late surge. I'm Still Here is a movie that had a very late surge last year. So that is still in the cards for No Other Choice. But missing the International 5 for NBR, which is, I believe, the biggest detriment for this movie so far. Now, getting into the top 10, my reasoning for these next 3 is about as sound as my reasoning for the last 3, and all of these are neck and neck, okay? This is going to be a little bit of speculation, going to be some prediction with this model that I'm using, I guess, and there's a bit of copium/hopium that I'm on right now when it comes to a movie like Train Dreams. I have Train Dreams at number 10, either on the outside looking in, inside looking out, however you choose to look at it. And, admittedly, right now, No Other Choice and Jay Kelly are looking better on paper. Jay Kelly is the industry favorite. I'm going to stop saying that. And then No Other Choice has a little bit of international, coming in with the Golden Globe nom. Train Dreams not getting the Golden Globe nom. I thought that was really important. And a film like Train Dreams really needing a bit more of a push than some of these other films. Now, I could chalk that up to what we have coming as opposed to what we've had so far. And I'm looking at the PGAs. This is going to be huge for a movie like Train Dreams. I feel like it needs a mention somewhere. I feel like the BAFTA long lists, we should see Train Dreams in there in a few spots. Maybe even performing better than people anticipate, because that would have me a lot more positive. And not that I'm fully expecting all of this to happen, because who knows what's going to happen. Again, I'm just kind of hoping that this momentum that Train Dreams has had for the last little bit, it had 2 good weeks on Twitter, on all social medias, and I still think people are talking about it. And Joel Edgerton, he may be on the outside in when it comes to the Oscar, because right now Ethan Hawke is looking really good, but he's at least in the discussion enough. Now, do I think Edgerton could potentially take that 5th spot? I do. And I'm hoping that happens. And that's kind of me predicting a few things. I'm predicting that to potentially happen. Train Dreams to come in with a few of these noms. It's getting in song, and so it's getting some of these minor categories. And I really want people to recognize quality this year, especially after Emilia Perez last year. And there's not a movie this year that's as bad as Emilia Perez. Some people are trying to say it's Wicked for Good. I would watch Wicked for Good 1,000 times. I would have you tie me, blindfold me, gag me, flip me upside down, and watch that movie. Well, I guess I wouldn't be watching. Hearing that movie in that way, then watch Emilia Perez again. That's how much I hate that film. And so it's not really a movie like that this year. But Train Dreams is such a high-quality movie, and it wasn't the priority for Netflix in the beginning. That was Jay Kelly. But there's a part of me that hopes Netflix kind of shifts towards Train Dreams, especially after seeing a Jay Kelly underperformance when we all thought Jay Kelly would get in a way easier category. I think musical comedy was significantly easier to get in rather than where Train Dreams was slated to get in, and that's drama. That was kind of a stacked category. And so I hope Netflix sees that and starts to push Train Dreams a little bit more. In reality, it is more likely that Jay Kelly gets a nod over Train Dreams. I'm just really wanting people to see the goodness of what that film has to offer. And so this is a bit of a predictive number 10 rather than what's in favor, what's trending. Oh, and I forgot to mention the main positive for Train Dreams. NBR, AFI, CCA, HCA, 4 out of the 5. And so, yeah, Golden Globe doesn't happen. You're kind of like, oh, crap, that's not good. But prior to that, it was trending in the right direction. So, again, it's not going to be dead in the water after one thing. It could be dead in the water in a couple of weeks, but I'm not throwing it out with the bathwater right now, especially when you got 4 for 5 on the big ones. And so I may be going even more out on a whim here. The Secret Agent. I'm putting The Secret Agent at 9. I'm not feeling overly confident in it. When I look at this list of what did it and did it not get, obviously no AFI mention, but international films, it's so hard for that to get an AFI mention. It rarely happens, and so nobody was shocked by that. Critics' Choice was one, and I'm a little bummed out that it didn't happen because I was sitting there like, hey, what are we doing? Non-English language, but we could have gotten it in Best Picture. I would have felt great. It did not get the National Board of Review 10, but it did get the international mention, and so No Other Choice not getting that mention, The Secret Agent getting that mention, and I think that's pretty big for that film, to be honest with you. Obviously doesn't give you as much confidence if it would have gotten in the main 10. But you've got that plus the Golden Globe, and so that's a solid combination. Okay, some of these other categories, we didn't really see that happening. Critics' Choice threw me off a little bit, but The Secret Agent is a beloved film, I believe, right below a 90 on Metacritic. And the biggest thing it has going for it right now is Mora and his performance and how good he is, plus the fact that he's a lock for Best Actor right now. Joel Edgerton is not a lock. Ethan Hawke is not a lock. That rhymed. He's a lock, and he's firmly in my opinion. He actually gives a couple of great performances in this movie. Now, if The Secret Agent is able to do this, and right now I am predicting it to gain and garner and continue to just elevate its momentum, because I'm hearing a lot of chatter about that film right now. In Brazil, we know how Brazil is about their filmography and pushing it, and I'm Still Here last year with that performance and coming in at the last second. They're in rare territory when you're talking only getting the Golden Globe nom, not snagging any of these others that we've talked about, and National Board of Review, AF, like any of these, even the ones that we didn't expect. It's rare that that film with a sole Golden Globe picture nominee gets into Best Picture. Very rare. When you look at the last, 10 plus years. I think The Secret Agent has a great formula to do it right now. Getting some of those international mentions, having a little bit of momentum with the Golden Globes. And I understand I'm contradicting myself a little bit here, but you've got to, when everything's this close, you've got to just call your shot. And I had Secret Agent in there for a little bit. I'm going to call my shot right now and say Train Dreams gets the nod over a movie like Jay Kelly. I'm going to say The Secret Agent gets the nod over a movie like No Other Choice. And again, Neon is cooking, all right? Neon is cooking with all of these films, especially the international ones. But The Secret Agent just has such a great formula. It describes itself as a thriller. I wouldn't say it's the most thrilling thriller I've ever seen. It's just a beautiful character study, a riveting life, a riveting world that you're jumping into. And you've got the political aspect, which is helping a movie like it was just an accident. But you've also got a very compelling lead. And not just that performance, but a really good ensemble cast. And beyond just the quality of the movie, you got a couple of things working in its favor. And I could definitely see it gaining a little more momentum as maybe that international feature that no one expected to get in here. And it does it, and people are like, oh, okay, that just happened. I feel like The Secret Agent could be that movie over a No Other Choice. And I know what you're saying, Park Chan-wook, he's celebrated by the Academy. But he also just got in trouble for writing during the writer's strike for that HBO series, and I feel like some voters could hold that against him. And it hasn't really happened. I mean, it didn't happen with the Golden Globes, obviously, but that's not as much the industry voting as its own little body. But will some industry voters be like, yeah, I'm not going to vote for that because of what happened? I think that pettiness could happen. I really do. And I'm not saying that's going to be the game changer because, of course, if No Other Choice gets an Oscar nomination, you're going to say, Austin, what were you talking about? It's possible. We know. I mean, these are the same people that didn't vote for Adam Sandler because, oh, he's funny. He's a silly comedian, so he doesn't get in for Uncut Gems. Are they dumb? Let's move on because I feel like I'm talking too much. Begonia. Now, I've had Begonia on the outside looking in for a while. I started out with this movie very high on my list before I saw it. And I saw it. I loved it. It's one of my favorite movies of the year. But I'm like, that doesn't feel like a Best Picture nominee because I feel like people are going to watch this and be like, oh, that was weird. But, it turns out it's doing better than I expected. It kind of surprised me with the AFI nod. It kind of surprised me with the Golden Globes. Not the nod, but the love that it got with the Golden Globes. You got Plemons and Stone, and then you've got, CCA, Critics' Choice, all over it. Really, National Board of Review is the only big one it's not secured so far, getting into that 10. And so I'm thinking, maybe this film is more secure than I ever anticipated, because I've always seen it as basically just a film that gets into Best Picture. It's got the cast. It's got Yorgos Lanthimos. It's got that history between he and Emma Stone. I mean, my God, she won the Oscar under his direction, and people adore this director. And I believe this is one of his best movies, personally. And so for this one not to get in, I would have found that weird. But I'm just looking at how other people and kind of how they go normally with these types of movies. And I'm like, oh, I guess it's too approachable compared to some of his other flicks, ending aside, right? But that's not really been the case. It's just kind of gotten in and keeps getting in and keeps doing well. If it performs well at some of these others, I mean, you've got the BAFTAs, you've got some of these ceremonies that I think, which is why it's a little higher on my list, it could do very well at. And if that's the case, it's better off than all of these movies. Now, 2 weeks ago, it wasn't better off than Jake Kelly, because Jake Kelly was doing great. 2 weeks ago, I would have put Wicked for Good way ahead of Begonia. Well, talking before Wicked for Good actually came out. Solid IMDb score, 7.5, a 72 Metascore, which again isn't crazy high, but it hasn't really affected it anywhere. It hasn't really impacted the love and adoration for this movie, and that IMDb score went up as more people started to see it. And so it's gotten up to a 7.5 as opposed to going down to a 7.5. I just think this is a great movie that deserves to be in here. I think more people are seeing that. Now, could it falter when all these other noms start coming? Yeah, absolutely. These next couple of weeks are detrimental for a movie like Begonia, just like it's detrimental for these other pictures. And if you've got some of these other movies sliding in, like if Wicked for Good does better in some of these ceremonies than Begonia, you might be in trouble. Now we're to the first, I'm not going to call this a lock, but the first movie I feel really good about, I'd say more than a 50% chance, I would say 75%, maybe 80%, that it was just an accident, gets in here, because it is not only getting on these lists. The big one for me was AFI. I did not think this was going to get AFI. The fact that it got AFI, I was like, oh, okay, that's a big deal. You have it missing a few of these. It only got 3 of the 5 big ones we've talked about. It missed Critics' Choice. That was shocking for me. I thought for sure us as a voting body would really appreciate this movie. And we did. International, it's sweeping all the international categories. NBR International list. What it is doing is winning most of the international feature awards. Winning. And so you've got all these other movies that are making the lists, and you got all of these films, but the smaller critics' bodies, it has almost, I'm not going to say swept, like No Other Choices won a couple of those, but it was just an accident consistently winning those smaller ones. And so if you have a movie that is winning against some of these other films, even up against sentimental value at points, and sentimental value has been looked at for a while as kind of an Oscar lock, and I still believe it is. But this has taken it down in a few of those competitions. And so I believe, and Jafar Panahi is kind of going up against the government here and has a history of that. And there's a lot that this movie has to say and is saying and will continue to say about everything going on there. So it's a lot more than just the movie, in my opinion. And when you have a film like that, that is very well done, very well written, superbly acted across the board, but it also has a little something more to it, and I think a little more than all these other international features, even more than sentimental value. Next up, as you saw, Frankenstein kind of moved up and down my list. At one point, I think I had Jake Kelly above it. At one point, I had House of Dynamite above it. I didn't know if people would embrace Frankenstein. But the moment I saw that movie at the Kentucky Theater in downtown Lexington, I said, no, that's it. And I've just had that mindset ever since. And then it's just it's confirmed every day It feels like Frankenstein getting in all the tech noms, all the below-the-line nominations that it needs to get thriving. And when I was voting for Critics' Choice, I'm like, oh, Frankenstein. I'm like, oh, okay, so it's just going to get in everywhere. And then it starts to get some love for Guillermo del Toro. I mean, del Toro getting in the Golden Globe for director, that was a big deal. That was a really big deal. I thought for sure it was going to be my Safdie bro here. Wasn't my Safdie bro, it was del Toro. And so that almost confirmed even more than Frankenstein's a lock. It swept everything it needed to so far. Gets the AFI mention, gets Critics' Choice, gets Golden Globe, gets NBR, everything it needs. And it hasn't missed a step. And when a movie doesn't miss a step, you've got to be concrete in that prediction. And I think Frankenstein has a 95, because I can't be as concrete as the ones above it, 95% chance to get an Oscar nomination. If Netflix, say something crazy happens and it gets no tech noms from here on out, but it's just not going to happen. You know what? Screw it. It's getting in. It's a 100% chance. Frankenstein is a lock. The next few are very easy here. Marty Supreme, come on. Now, the only reason I have it lower, the only reason it's low. Now, for me personally, I think this is one of the best movies of the year. I freaking loved it. Can't wait to talk about it. Actually, I want to tease this. Marty Supreme review on this channel coming soon, so you've got to hit the notification bell. You got to make sure you watch that review, because you want to see me rave about a movie? Oh, I will rave about Marty Supreme and Timothée Chalamet, and that's kind of the big draw here, Chalamet's performance. But beyond that, you've got impeccable cinematography, great score, great direction, all this stuff. Now, when it comes to the Golden Globes, the only reason I have it at 5 is because Safdie didn't get in for director. That kind of bummed me out. Odessa Zion's not getting the love I believe she deserves. It's one of my favorite performances of the year. The fact that she's not getting talked about more and Paltrow's getting talked about more than she is, I'm just like, I don't think that's fair. I believe she gives a remarkable performance. I don't know why she's not getting any nods anywhere. I guess the focus is on Chalamet, but again, she's just as good and holds her weight in those scenes. The score didn't get the nomination like I thought it would in Golden Globes. And so these are just a couple of things that are putting it down the pecking order on this list. But it swept the 5 it needed to sweep. All the awards nominations for all of these critics' bodies. I mean, it's not missed a step. And so I am 100% convinced this gets a Best Picture nomination. Sentimental Value is next. Look, it didn't get AFI, and it's American Film Institute. I didn't really expect it to. Didn't get the NBR 10, although it did get the international mention like I expected. And so you could say, well, that should knock it down a peg or two, but when you have screenplay going for you, and when you have so many performances, I mean, multiple supporting actress performances, lead actress, supporting actor, Skarsgård, you could have up to 4 Oscar nominations here just for acting. When that happens, and you're in screenplay, and you might be in director, the movie there's no shot it misses here, whether it got AFI list or not. And so, if it didn't have all of that going for it, then I would feel less confident. Maybe even more or less confident than a movie like It Was Just an Accident that has a little more to say on that front. But Sentimental Value, personally, I have a little higher on my favorites list because I just thought this was such a remarkably written movie. And what it's trying to do here, sort of, with a couple of its characters, is very reminiscent to Jay Kelly. I just believe the subtleties of Sentimental Value far outweighs what happened in Jay Kelly, even though I really enjoyed Jay Kelly. I liked that movie, and I loved the actors there. But so many noms, hasn't really missed a step for the important ones that we expected, and I'm giving it 100. Is there anything higher? 105? It's not missing. At this point, it's less of, are these movies getting in? And it's more of, okay, which one of these are winning? Because Hamnet is in that discussion. I believe this is the first one. Now, I had Marty Supreme in that discussion. It's lost a little bit of steam lately, and so I think we're down to 3 here. Right now, I'm going to say Hamnet is in the 3rd spot. It missed National Board of Review, the 10. That was a little weird. But there are occasions where NBR doesn't put one of those really artsy movies on there. Hamnet was apparently that film this year, so it has missed a step, which is why I have it a peg lower. And after watching it, I don't feel as strongly. Now, I really enjoyed Hamnet. Very emotional movie, amazing performances. I don't feel as strongly about its chances of winning as I did before watching, because it does take a lot for you to kind of peel back those layers. And it is a movie that thinks it has more to say than maybe it actually does. Now, it puts those emotions on display beautifully, and it shows the tragedy, but also kind of the comfort that you feel when you're dealing with that type of loss, which is, again, use the word tragic, heartbreaking, but also a little heartwarming, emotional. This is not a review of the movie. I'm just saying it doesn't feel as much like a movie that's going to win Best Picture to me because of that. Now, if it was any other year, maybe I'd feel stronger, but in a year with one battle after another, it's kind of like, well, you've got to do a lot to be in that discussion, and I just don't know if Hamnet has done that much yet. I get into my number 2, it's Sinners, obviously. We know what number 1 is. Sinners hasn't missed a beat, hasn't missed a step. I mean, my God, Christopher Nolan was running a FYC screening this evening. I mean, that's about as good of praise as you can get. If there's any movie that has a shot to take down one battle after another at this point, I would say it's Sinners. Sinners had all of the momentum in the world. And at one point in the year, I said Sinners was not only a lock for a Best Picture nomination, I said, this thing's going to win. It's going to win. When you do this well at the box office, when you kind of have this cultural movement behind your movie, when you're a genre film, but you have something to say. I mean, it has so much going for it in that way. It makes you think, and you've got the Ryan Coogler narrative of, okay, this guy's done it. He's gotten the genre movies in there before. Now you got something original in the horror-ish vampire genre. He can do this thing. But then you got Paul Thomas Anderson coming in. And that's where I have to look at what it's doing, and it keeps winning, and one battle after another keeps winning. Let's go ahead and get into it, because I am uber confident in Sinners having a shot here to pull off a huge underdog upset, but that's what it would be at this point, because One Battle is a behemoth. It is winning awards right now, and talking smaller critics' bodies, that Oppenheimer didn't win, okay? Because some of these smaller critics' bodies did not give these awards to Oppenheimer, and Oppenheimer was a freight train of a movie when it came to the Oscars. A freight train, okay? So many nominations, so many wins, one of the biggest we've seen in years. But One Battle could be even bigger. One Battle could secure so many nominations across the board. You might see a misstep here or there. Maybe in supporting actress, you might see a misstep. You might see some of the technicals maybe not go in its direction, but I just don't see it happening. I see it getting close to the record, maybe tying the record, maybe the same amount of nominations as Oppenheimer, which would be spectacular. It really would. So I don't know if there's a shot of any other movie taking down one battle after another. So how are we feeling about the list? Again, a lot of this is just kind of me predicting at this point, because we won't know until PGAs and until SAG. And so until we get there, follow along, man. Come back. Hang out. We're going to talk Oscars as much as we want. We might do this in like a podcast format. I want to have some conversations with maybe an Oscar expert, maybe a Matt Neglia if I can get him on the show, something like that. I want you all to hang out with me in different formats, and so let me know if you guys have any ideas. Regardless, I appreciate it. Thanks for watching, and we'll be back with some actor nomination predictions, actor, actress, and supporting very, very soon.